guys. You're listening to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. Your usual hosts, Josh Hartley and Ben Porter. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. We could say good morning, good afternoon as well.
This is true. I'm making assumptions here.
Yeah, we've got listeners all over the place now.
Yes. Charlotte was saying we've got like something daft like a quarter of our listeners at least are in the United States.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more than I thought would be listening over the Atlantic. So hello over there. But we've got quite a lot to cover this episode.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on gaming wise.
Mm-hmm.
So the two new warbands came out for Shadespire.
Yep, we'll have a chat about that. Got some news about Magic the Gathering, some new products coming out for them in April.
Yep.
So we'll cover that off as well.
Malign Portents is in full swing.
Yes, which will lead us on to the kind of disaster of a day I've had today. So for those of you not aware, we are recording this on Saturday the 24th of February. So,
something amazing has happened.
No,
something great.
No, right. So to start... Right, my football team is Burnley, and Burnley were winning. They were beating Southampton 1-0 until Southampton scored in the final minute of the game.
Which is annoying, but it's a draw.
Yeah.
So,
Scotland beat England in the rugby today.
Yeah, they did.
Shut up. Look, do you know what, like, I'm going to get ripped in two when I go into the office on Monday. So...
I've gone pretty easy on you.
You have, you have.
Yeah.
Like, but I can just feel it starting already.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to... I'm probably going to spend tomorrow just sort of steeling myself, like just... getting myself
do you think the guys
ready.
In your office are like making notes of things to say?
Oh yeah, they'll be planning this.
So, you can just imagine them like sitting in the studio, like scrunching up the paper and throwing it in the basket.
Like, no, it needs to be more brutal.
Yeah.
Needs to be more brutal. I remember when it was the European Cup for the football, and England got drew against Wales.
Yeah.
And I entered the office that morning to find my desk covered in leaks and like daffodils. So I cannot wait to see what they're gonna leave for me to discover. But perhaps to just the icing on the cake was myself and Scott as the brothers' death.
Yeah, Super Death Brothers.
The Super Death Brothers. We're not so super today.
No,
we got a fair hammering from your fire slayers.
They did.
All right.
Well, I'm just confirming what you said.
Yeah,
you're quite sensitive today, aren't you?
Well, can you wonder why? Like.
Well, you did win a game of Shadespire.
I did win a game of Shadespire. That sort of like made me feel, okay.
I did a thing.
Yay! But no, so this was my first game with the Malign Portents rules in effect.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good. They're not like the Malign Portents themselves. They're neat. They're not game breaking by any stretch.
No. It feels in terms of like power level and the things that allows you to do, it actually feels kind of like a hybrid of Triumph and Treachery and Storm of Magic from 8th edition.
Yeah.
It allows you to slightly tip the odds in your favour.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to throw attacks at people
out
of sequence. But it's not game breaking the way that Storm of Magic could be at times. Mm-hmm. With some of the big Cataclysm spells.
Yeah.
It's a bit more subtle, and I think it's designed in such a way where, and this is very in the spirit of Age of Sigmar, all of the portents and things that you can use on their own don't do very much, but when you start comboing them...
Yeah, clearly the idea is to try and synergize them as much as possible. So the more we learn about them, the better.
Yeah.
The better an idea of what we're supposed to be doing with them.
Yeah. So there's 6, just for the benefit of people that don't know, that you have 6 guiding portents that you can choose from. And then each of the 4 Harbinger models, the Dark Oath War Queen, the Fungoid Cave Shaman, the Lord Ordinator, and the Knight of Shrouds, they each have their own set of portents.
Yes.
Exclusive to them.
Which you use as well.
But you get the 6 generic portents. But what's quite interesting is that on the surface, like, you've just got the Red Mist, the Bale Moon, things like that. They're not very descriptive in their own right. But once you examine them, you actually see that they do complement certain play styles.
Yeah.
Like the one that I use today, the Baleman, it's very much designed to give you more control over the battle shock phase.
Which is what a dwarf player wants to be doing.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're up against like a Night Haunt army like yours.
Yeah, which relies on whittling away at your bravery, so my banshees can just scream at you.
But this is the interesting thing about the portents themselves, is that you don't have to have them written down on your army list. You can just rock up to a battle, see who you're playing against, and go, I'm going to use this one.
Yeah, you can you choose on the day.
Yeah, which allows you to pre-plan a little bit.
Give
more.
it a bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
And speaking of those new models, this was my first time using the Knight of Shrouds, and he's awesome.
He is, and the Dread Solstice global campaign is in effect at the moment, and they've concluded the first chapter, and what they're doing is every week they have rules in effect for everyone's Age of Sigmar games all across the world, and at the moment anything that's not death has -1 to its bravery, and they've also given the Knight of Shrouds a new artifact called the Balefire Sword, which gives him +1 damage to his attacks.
Rather than doing 2 damage, he's doing 3 damage with all of his base attacks. So yeah, it's pretty nasty. I mean, he managed to single-handedly take out one of your units.
He did, quite a tough little unit as well.
Yeah, well, they were exceptionally good for you.
Yeah.
It's, the half guard.
Yeah.
They managed to chew through my ghosts with no bother whatsoever. But despite it being a loss, I still enjoyed it. It was fun, and I think I need to figure out more what I'm doing with the portents before I dive more into it.
Yeah.
But hopefully I'll get the hang of it.
Oh, you will. It's like anything new. Like Scott, it was his first time using the Legion of Nagash rules, which is the new book for death armies. And you know, he, by his own admission, he made a few missteps with some of his things, but that's to be expected whenever you're handed something new. You're not going to be an expert on it the first time you use it.
No.
Which is something that I've just switched to running a Fireslayer deck in Shadespire, and one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is playing through it, and then after each game, re-examining the deck to decide what I want to remove and what I want to keep.
Yeah, how are you finding the Fireslayers in Shadespire then so far?
I thought that on the surface they were going to be very similar to the Orcs, but they actually play quite differently.
They do. I mean, as an opponent, like I have to take a very different approach to them than I do the Orcs.
Yeah.
The Orcs I'm avoiding combat unless absolutely necessary. Whereas with these guys, they are very killy.
Yeah.
A lot of them can like one shot kill one of my guys. But at the same time, I feel like I can go toe to toe with them a bit more.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I managed to take out your leader in this game.
Yeah, you did throw a lot of attacks at him, but stat wise, the Fireslayer leader's pretty much on a par with
Gerzag.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and I don't know, like, and the way the Fire Slayers work as well. By the way, where they get inspired, which is like the sort of power up
yeah,
mechanic.
you flip the card over and
Yeah,
you
and they get
stat bonuses
Yeah.
and things.
Yeah, they get that for holding an objective,
Yep.
which is something you kind of want to be doing anyway, right?
Sure.
So I feel like you got 3 of your 4 guys inspired by the second turn, which is huge, right?
I mean, that was good, but obviously you didn't really know at the time, but I really stumbled out of the gate with my objectives, which is the main thing that I want to change up a bit. I've tried doing a few things that I'm not too happy with, but as far as my ploys and upgrades go, I'm very happy
Yeah.
with how they work. One of my favourite new cards is Ready for Action, which is you play an upgrade on a fighter, that fighter can immediately move or attack.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And with a 4-man warband, anything that lets someone attack out of step is very useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially because, as you were saying, a lot of the Fire Slayers can take out most other fighters in one hit.
Yeah. I particularly once have been inspired, which pretty much all of your guys were by the end
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah.
So, but no, I managed to win by virtue of scoring objectives. And, at the last minute, managed to deny you
6 points.
6 points, which would have swung the game in your favour.
Yeah.
Just by planting a little skeleton on an objective in your territory.
Well, that's it. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. And you could tell I was setting up for that as well, though.
Yeah,
I managed to move one of my other guys just in the way to block him as well.
Yeah, because my plan had been, prior to you moving the champion in there, was to charge Vol at the little guy who eventually
it's a
cost me the
petitioner.
game.
They call the petitioners, like,
Yeah.
they're basically the worst.
They're the grunts, aren't they?
Yeah, they're probably the worst fighters in the whole game. I haven't come up against or played as the Skaven yet.
I think the bog standard Skaven are slightly better than the petitioners.
Yeah, I would think so as well. But of course, the petitioners have the advantage of, 1, you can bring them back,
Yeah.
and 2,
You couldn't in that game.
No, not in that game. But normally you can.
Yeah.
But 2 as well, you can move multiple of them with 1 action as well.
Absolutely.
Which for a game where, manoeuvring and positioning your guys in the right place is key. That's huge, right?
Yeah.
Particularly, and the undead move quite slowly normally, so it's normally that I think that's to compensate for that. But
Which actually brings us on to one of the new cards. Massive game changer, Earthquake.
which I'm gonna have to put in my deck. But I don't know what I'm gonna take out because I really like all of the ploy cards that I have.
Earthquake's too good. No, I think if you're taking a deck to a tournament, you're going to need to have Earthquake
you definitely should. So what Earthquake does is it reads you move every single fighter on the board in one direction, one space. So with one card, you can move everyone off their objectives,
or everyone onto an objective potentially.
That's true. And I mean, you used it to a pretty good effect in that game. You moved a lot of my guys off objectives and pushed one of my guys into a bit where he couldn't get out of as well. So,
and it actually pushed one of my guys into a place where he had a few options for charges as well.
So definitely need to figure out what I'm going to remove in my own deck to put that card in.
Because I think everyone needs to have that card now. Not just because it's so good, but also for that chance that because we've done this with Confusion and Sidestep before, where someone plays Confusion and then you just play Confusion to undo it.
Yeah,
and
it's like they're doing a little waltz.
Yeah, and I think people are going to start doing the same thing with Earthquake. Like, oh, you play Earthquake, well, Earthquake back, just move everything back the way it was.
Yeah. So that's definitely one of the new cards. I mean, for me as well, with how I've bet, my deck is all built around claiming objectives. So there are the new cards that I put in mine immediately, where there were a couple of new keys. The keys are like little upgrades you can give your characters that just read, if you are holding objective whatever, score 2 points at the end of the game. So they're kind of like auto includes for me. So I've gone from just having 2 to now having 4 of them, which is great. They're effectively just extra objective cards.
Yeah.
But you like personally, I would much rather have 16 objective cards rather than 12. So
yeah, there is that, but at the same time, you are potentially losing out on survivability and
certain
killing
upgrades,
prowess.
sure.
So
I think they work in my deck.
they work in your deck, but I think that they're not necessarily auto includes.
I mean, have any of the other new cards caught your eye? Obviously, you're trying out a new warband, so a lot of new cards in that. But
there's a new upgrade card, Vampiric Weapon, which if you kill a character, which is pretty doable for the Fire Slayers, you take a wound marker off.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So if you're a combat focused
And
warband.
the Fire Slayer warband effectively also has 2 healing potions, because you get healing potion, but then there's a new card called Our Gold Boon,
Which is just for the Fire Slayers.
which is a Fire Slayer exclusive, but it functions in exactly the same way as the healing potion card. So it means that where combat-wise they're pretty much on a par with the orcs, I'd say that they're a little bit tougher than the orcs, though.
A little bit more versatile,
Yeah.
I'd say as well. I think if you're playing the orcs, you just want to go all-out murder.
Yeah.
Whereas Fire Slayers can probably adapt their game a little bit depending on who you're up against. You probably wouldn't be as aggressive against, say, the Sigmarite warband.
Well, no, I don't. You would probably, with the Fire Slayers, you would take that first turn to get your guys ready, and then I think second turn you would just go nuts.
Okay.
Because that's the good thing about the Stormcast is that Fire Slayers outnumber them.
Yeah, that's true. So you can just gang up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the way to go against that warband.
So that's the new warbands for Age of Sigmar.
We've yet to get our teeth into the Skaven.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
You did that one, not me. You can't groan at that dad joke.
Well, that pun wasn't intentional. So
Still a pun.
okay.
Still a pun.
It's like, was it ignorance of the law is no defence
Yes.
of the law? So, yeah. But we've yet to really have a look at how they function. But another card that was in the Skaven expansion that I thought was quite interesting was Curious Inversion, which all cross swords become hammers.
Yeah.
And then all blocks become dodges.
Yeah.
So you could use that to weaken an opponent and strengthen your own. And that's, I think, going to be very useful for the Skaven in particular.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how things pan out. So that's the new warbands. Just in terms of other news then, or other things that we've been up to, we have been playing a little bit of Pandemic Legacy.
I'm playing a lot of it.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. We're late to the party on this because it came out. We're playing through season 1.
There won't be any story spoilers.
Yes,
this is purely a discussion of the legacy mechanics.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of like the ordinary Pandemic game, which apparently is celebrating its 10th birthday.
I didn't realise
year.
it was that old.
Yeah, I know. Great game. One of the first games that I bought, one of the first quote unquote proper board games.
I think
brought.
it's okay, like the basic Pandemic, but I think it works better as a legacy game.
Definitely, I think so. The legacy mechanics involve you making decisions, and those decisions having repercussions on later games that you play.
Yeah.
This can
permanent
be,
repercussions as well.
This can be placing stickers on the board that reflect that this city is now panicking. Or ripping up cards so that they're no longer usable. That sort of thing. If you do well in a game, you'll get a little bonus for your next game. So I think it's great because it gives every decision point and just the game in general, playing the game has more weight to it because there's more at stake, because it's going to affect everything going down the line. But you've got, well, maybe not a criticism of it.
Well, yeah, it is a criticism. I've got a couple of criticisms. First of all, that everyone's making a big deal about legacy games at the moment. As someone that's played quite a lot of war games, war game campaigns, and quite a few like role-playing games, legacy games aren't quite as revolutionary as they're being made out to be, because it is essentially a campaign.
No, that's fair. I can see that.
That's not to detract from what these guys have done, because what they've designed is brilliant.
Yes.
But it's not quite as new as a lot of people are making out. And as I say, like primarily in wargaming, campaigns with games having direct consequences for games that follow on, that's been around for decades.
Yeah, that is fair enough.
The second criticism I have is I don't see why these decisions have to have permanent consequences. I think the example I used with you was if you take a game where you are like a video game where you're forced to make choices, like Fable. That first time you play through Fable, is you're never going to have that same gravitas, that same emotional response from the player as you do that first time they're making all of these choices. But if you're anything like me, like I played through Fable 2 multiple times.
Yeah.
And even though I knew more or less what was coming, there was still something quite interesting about playing through these scenarios and just going down the opposite choice just to see what would happen. And that's easy to do that in a video game, because you just start a new campaign and all the pieces reset for you. And but you don't have that in Pandemic Legacy. Those stickers are on there and they're not coming off. And
there was a situation. Callum, Lanky Santa, was in one of our games and set the game up incorrectly.
Yeah.
But we couldn't undo it.
No.
Where the decisions were made, stickers had been placed, so that's it.
But this is one of the main problems there with not being able to reset. It assumes that your players have correctly understood the rules and aren't going to make mistakes. If they make mistakes, they can't undo them. Your choices have permanent consequences.
Yeah.
So do your mistakes.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I don't find it a big deal. Like, I think the thing that Matt Leacock, the designer of Pandemic and Pandemic Legacy, points out when people were criticising, but I can only play this game 12 times. No, this is a game you will play at least 12 times, right? How many games do you own that you haven't even took out the wrapper?
It's a perfectly valid statement, which I completely agree with. But I keep referencing it, but the Firestorm expansion for Age of Sigmar, the campaign that we're using at the moment, is quite clearly influenced by the recent surge in legacy games.
Yeah,
which is quite interesting, because the legacy, if you want to use that blanket term for campaigns, is something war games have done for ages.
Yeah.
And probably so war games in a way have informed legacy gaming, and now legacy gaming is informing some things from wargaming. But what they've done in Firestorm is they've got stickers,
Mm-hmm.
but they are washable, so you can just take them off
Yeah.
when you're done.
And that might be a way to go about it. The concern that I would have is it might encourage the sort of behaviour of... Mind when you were a kid and you were reading through a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
No, skip back.
Yeah, it's the classic. Okay, alright, go to page whatever if you want to open the door, or go to page whatever if you just want to try the next door. I'll try the next door. No, I choose the other door.
Yeah.
I think it might encourage a bit more of that behaviour, which is not in the spirit of what the game is about.
That's true. And with decisions having permanent consequences, it does mean that those decisions carry a lot more gravity. So I do understand why they've done it, but if it was me personally designing it, I would give them an option to reset it, because the fact of the matter is that where I might not do it just because of the sheer amount of games that we have to play, part of me is curious about like how the game state would end up if I had made different choices, or we had made different choices.
Yeah, that's true.
And I have to go out and buy a new game to do that.
Another copy of Pandemic Legacy. Marketing genius, though, right? Make them buy our game multiple times.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the bottom line to take away from this, though, is Pandemic Legacy is fantastic. I can't wait to play more of it, and I can't wait to try Season 2 as well.
I mean, I realise I've gone on for like the past 7 minutes, like quite heavily criticising the game. I'm really enjoying it, and I love video games and tabletop games that have you make decisions that have far-reaching consequences.
Yeah.
So I love Pandemic. I would recommend it to anyone. Just those are the things that bother me about it.
Yeah, that's fair. So just quickly before we wrap up, then we've got the announcement of the Challenger decks, or rather the card lists for the Challenger decks for Magic the Gathering. So these decks are due out in April, and they announced these decks before Christmas that they were going to be doing them.
Okay.
And the mission statement behind them was that these were pre-constructed decks that you could open out the box and do well at Friday Night Magic. Possibly even win Friday Night Magic,
which is competitive.
That is the Friday Night Magic is the organised play that Wizards of the Coast put on. Loads of different gaming stores run it, and you get little prizes for doing well. Yeah. It's kind of like a gateway into competitive play, and crucially, these decks were being pitched as you wouldn't have to upgrade them an awful lot to make them proper competitive decks.
Yeah.
Now, we've heard this chat from Wizards of the Coast before, and everyone at that point thought it was a load of bull. So, earlier this week, we had the deck lists announced.
Yeah.
And it's the real deal. So, there are 4 decks in total, and they are genuinely 4 very strong archetypes in Standard. You've got a red aggro deck, a blue-white control deck, what they're calling vehicle mid-range, which is all based around the vehicle mechanic from the Kaladesh block. And the final one is one that's based on counters, just putting loads of counters on your creatures and winning that way. 4 very decent archetypes, and each box, the recommended retail price in America is going to be $29.99, so it's probably going to be about £25 per box, but in terms of value, you're probably getting, if you were to use current card prices, somewhere between $50 and $100 worth of cards.
At the same time, though, if they're mass producing them, does that not devalue those cards?
It will. It inevitably will.
Yeah.
And these 4 decks, they're going to be sold in big box stores. So in America, the likes of Walmart and Target are going to stock them. I dare say you'll probably see some of them in the larger supermarkets over on these shores as well. So that's going to drive the price of these individual cards down. But some of the cards that they've included in them were things I'd never expect them to do. The most expensive card from Kaladesh, Chandra Torture Defiance, went for about, I think at a peak she was worth $40. She's included in one of these decks. And so from current card price, she's she's worth the money you're paying for alone.
Yeah.
And then you get a whole deck. And not to mention, these are cards that are used in competitive play. And not just like one-offs. Some of the decks have... The blue-white control deck is all based around a card called Approach of the Second Sun. And it has 3 copies of that card in, which is probably the number that you'd want to be playing in a competitive deck for that. It's got they all include like rare lands as well, which are typically some of the more expensive cards that you'll buy for a competitive deck. So they've actually come good on what they said they were going to do, and you can probably tell I'm thrilled that they're actually doing it. I don't know if I'm actually going to buy one because I've already got my standard deck. But for someone who was looking to get into it, this is it's a steal. Right, and just a great way of easing yourself into the standard format. So sorry to gush about a game that you don't play, Ben, but
there you go.
Yeah, so they come out early April. So that's the news on the Magic the Gathering front.
Well, as far as card games go, we've just bought a booster box for the Pokemon Ultra Prism expansion, haven't we?
Yes, so I'm gonna... I have played the Pokemon trading card game a little bit. I have no idea how I'm going... So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do a sealed pool. So there's going to be us two, is Charlotte taking part?
Charlotte and my sister Abby.
Yeah, so the 4 of us, we're going to split the booster packs from this box, open them up, and try and build something out of that. I have no idea how I'm going to go about doing that for a Pokemon deck. But
well, none of us have any idea because we don't know what cards we're going to get. So
we'll give it a go.
Yeah, it'll be fun if nothing else.
So
this, of course, was the now notorious expansion because the entire pre-release for the UK got nicked.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I still haven't found any of those black market Pokemon cards.
Nah.
They'll be on the dark web somewhere. So we're going to do that next week, I think. So we'll report on how we get on with that as well.
Very quickly. I had another D&D session the other night.
Yes.
And it was our first proper outing with the archetypes from Xanthar's Guide to Everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris, whose previous character Werner died, is now playing a Hexblade, which is a type of warlock, I believe. Charlotte is now playing an Arcane Archer, which is type of fighter.
Yeah.
So you get action surge and all that, the cool stuff fighters get.
Yep.
And I'm still playing the same character, Brynjar, but I managed to talk with my GM, and he agreed to let me switch to Gloomstalker.
Did you bribe the GM?
I didn't have to. He's a good lad.
There we go.
He's a good lad. But the Gloomstalker is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Batman of dwarfs, or the Bat Dwarf.
We'll go with Bat Dwarf.
Yeah. Bat Dwarf.
So I'm level 3. Well, I'm now level 4. I was level 3 at the time. He has an ability called Dread Ambusher, which is on the first turn of combat, he gets an extra 10 feet of movement, and he gets an extra attack, which does an extra 1d8 of damage. My character, because previously we'd all been beat up by this orc, and we had all our gear nicked, and then had to break out of the shaman's room. None of us have any gear except for the stuff that we found. I have this big orc maul, So we went into this room to fight this ogre and his two dire wolves. Brynjar attacks, rolls a crit against the dire wolf, and with Hunter's Mark on, does 3d6 plus 3 damage from the attack, plus the d8 from the Dread Ambusher, and then rolls all of that again.
So the dire wolf was an ex-dire wolf.
It was a sort of paste.
Oh,
by the end of it.
Oh, that'll make me feel sorry for the bad guys in this.
Well, it was. I mean, after that, Charles was like, "Well, we all know what class we're picking when we roll our new characters now." So it'll be interesting to see, like, as it goes, if it turns out that Gloomstalker is completely OP, but at the moment he's churning out a lot of damage, and he's still.
He could be one of these classes though, because there are quite a few that are they are very good at low levels, but when you get higher up,
maybe doesn't scale quite
right. So that might be the idea behind him from a sort of balance perspective.
I guess, yeah,
that might be the thing. I don't know though. He sounds nasty.
Yeah, I mean he gets a free magic spell at certain level increments as well, so it does. He's always going to have some cool stuff to do. But you're right. Maybe they don't scale quite right, but time will tell.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of time, I think that is all we have for this episode. But guys, look, thanks very much for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you then.
Cheery bye.
Hi everyone, it's Charlotte from the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. All you need to do is search Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support for the Unlucky Frog through Patreon. To find out more information, check out our website www.unluckyfrog.com. Thanks, bye!